Okay, friends, today we are doing a much requested recipe. We're doing sourdough. So I've been getting a lot of messages saying, from a lot of people saying that they wish my videos were longer. So you're in luck. This one's going to be a marathon. Add 50 grams of unbleached flour, 50 grams of blé entier, and 100 grams of room temperature water to a few tablespoons, doesn't really matter how much, of starter, and combine. So once you've mixed it, this is my consistency. It's more of a paste than it is a goop, but if you've got a goop, that's all good. I like to mark where the starter sits in the jar with a rubber band, as you can see. And then that gives you an idea over the next few hours of how much your starter has risen. When it's about doubled or more in volume, then you're probably ready to go on to your next step. So it's 2 o'clock, about 3 hours after I mixed my starter and my flour and my water. Some people call this mixture the levain. Some people call it the sponge. It's a goop of many names, and you can see it's starting to get pretty bubbly. It's almost doubled in volume, but I would still like to see maybe a little more rise out of it. And I'm thinking maybe it's a little too cold in my room, so what I do often is I get my space heater and I turn it on low, and I make sure that it's not too close to my starter, and I warm up my starter just to give it a bit of help. Don't put it in the sun. I'm often tempted to put it on my windowsill and have it warm up that way. Don't do that. You'll fry it. The UV rays will zap all the life out of your starter and it'll get a gnarly sunburn. So I'm gonna let this warm up for maybe another hour. So I didn't know that in French, chopsticks are called baguettes. Okay, so it's been about 5 hours since we mixed, since I mixed. It's a one-man show after all. Since I mixed my starter and my flour and my water, and you can see it's more than doubled in size, and there's bubbles throughout the levain or the sponge now. So what we can do is mix the dough at this point, and then we let the dough sit for about half an hour, 40 minutes, and then we can mix in the starter afterwards. So using the scale again, you can use any combination of flours you want, which is fun. You can mix and match as long as the flours add up to 910 grams of flour. But before I add the flour, I'm going to put in 640 grams of room temperature water. And I've read online that it's a good idea to, if you get your water from the tap, okay, that's more than 640. So I got to get rid of some. BRB. Okay. 630. Okay, so that's 638. So I've read online that if you get your water from the tap, you should let your water sit in some container for a few hours before you mix it to let chlorine and any other additives kind of burn off or evaporate. So this has been sitting out for a while. So that's 640 grams of water. And now I'm gonna do maybe, I'll do 700 grams of white unbleached flour. Okay. I'll do 700 grams of white. I'll do 100 grams of whole wheat. And then I'm going to do 110 grams of spelt flour, which is from New Brunswick, I think. Spearville. So that's 640 grams of water and 910 grams of flour. Mix this, let it sit for half an hour, and then we'll come back and mix them together. Okay, so this is all mixed up. It's going to sit for, like I said, half an hour or 40 minutes. Don't ask me why. Them's just the rules. You can put a wet towel over it, or do as I do and put it in a big honking Ziploc, just to make sure it doesn't dry out. And it can just sit at room temperature, and our levain or our sponge here will sit alongside, and we'll come back in half an hour and mix them up. Okay, sorry everybody. Why am I apologizing? You're not doing this step by step. You're just watching this video. Time got away from me. I was having a lovely conversation with my sister, and I let everything sit for too long, but it'll be okay. It's been sitting for 2 hours instead of like half an hour. But all I'm going to do now is mix into the dough 50 grams of water, 20 grams of salt, and 180 grams of our levain. So if you could smell this, you'd smell like a sweet, kind of vinegary smell, which is fantastic. And I'm just going to measure out 184. I've already got my salt and my water in there. So this is like 184 grams is actually what I'm going to aim for. I bet you didn't know this was an ASMR channel. Okay, so this is all mixed, so it's not lumpy anymore. It's quite a bit wetter than our dough was before this latest mix. I'm gonna pop it back into this big Ziploc, and then it's gonna sit for an hour, and we're gonna do a fold, and you'll see what I mean. So now that we're done with our starter, I've got, you can't really tell, there's not a ton left, but there's enough. So there's maybe 3 tablespoons or so in there. You can seal it up and throw it back into the fridge until the next time you want to make bread. I just keep it in the same jar, so it like hasn't left this jar for months and months and months, and it's quite happy to put along in a single home. It doesn't need to move every week. You'd hate that. Okay, so this is after an hour rise. I had it in front of the space heater again to try and help it along. Now I'm going to do a fold. So I'm going to hand the camera off to camera boy Chris. And I wet my hands and the scraper. And then I scrape around the sides. And then lift up under it. You do a fold like that. You do the same thing again. You do a fold like that, and then maybe one more. And it'll get tighter. You can feel it get tighter the more folds you do. It'll sag less and it'll tighten up a little bit. So put this back in the Ziploc bag, and then let it rise for another hour. That's it. Okay, it's been 1 more hour, so I'm gonna do one more set of folds. And I can feel the dough that it's a little cold to the touch, so I'm gonna put it closer to my space heater. So I can feel it's stiffer this time than the last. And it's also getting airier. There's some bubbles forming. Okay, 1 more hour later. So 1, 2, this is the 3rd set of folds. This is gonna be the last one. And I don't know if you can tell, but from here, it's pretty obvious that this is much airier than when we started. And the dough's a little warmer, which is a good sign. So, oh yeah, it's like way airy. I don't know if you can, probably can't see shit, but whatever. Okay, so that's it for the folds. I'm gonna let this sit for like half an hour, and then we'll come back. Okay, so this dough has now been rising for 4 hours. We can see, I don't know, maybe you can tell, it has grown quite a bit. We've done 3 folds on it, and now we can divvy it up. So I'm going to flour a surface pretty liberally here, and then pull my dough out. This is a tricky part. I'm going to divide it into 3. This is going to make 3 loaves, this recipe. So I kind of like make a dot in the middle, as close to the middle as I can get, and then I draw a peace sign, because I'm a bohemian like that. And then I chop it up into thirds. Just kind of give them a bit of space, and then without flouring the top, I take each one and you don't have to worry about being too rough with these, and you fold them just like that into little boules or balls. And then I'll set this one off to the side, grab the next. So you can see where they've been floured. You can actually grab them and they won't stick to your hands too bad, but where they haven't been floured, they're super sticky. And then one more. Super. Okay, so I've got 3 of these. I'm gonna let these sit on the bench just like this for 20 or 30 minutes, and then I'm gonna come back and do the final shaping. No, that's just so just like when you go to the doctors, hard lumps are no good. We like soft lumps. Okay, so these have been resting for 20 minutes or so, and I'm losing my patience, so I'm going to go ahead and do the final shape on these. I have a few different vessels all ready to go. So this is a bowl, just covered in a tea towel here, and I've liberally floured it. And heck, if you think you've floured it enough, flour it some more, because you can't overdo it. And when your bread ball sticks to your towel and gets torn up in the morning, that it's just absolutely heartbreaking. So go for it. So I'm going to turn this around and then do the final shape on this. So I kind of pull it out, fold it just like that, do it once more. So I've got a little burrito there, and I kind of do the same thing. I go 1, 2, and then some people do like a fancy stitching thing at this point, but I just kind of leave it. Like, it's sticky enough for me that it just kind of stays in place well enough. And then I turn it over, make sure it's roughly ball shaped, and then for good measure, give it a good one of those. And then so the floured side goes down, and then you drop it in, boom, boom, boom. Put this in a bag if you can, seal that up, and then put it in the fridge overnight. This can stay in the fridge for at least 12 hours. I don't know, heck, it could probably stay in the fridge for like 24 hours for all I know. Point is, put it in the fridge, forget about it, and we'll bake it tomorrow. I'm gonna go do the other two now. Maybe I'll try a little stitchy poo here. That wasn't bad, I guess. Shit. Hey gang, so this has been in the fridge for about 16 hours, which means we're ready to bake. As you've seen, the oven's warming up. I've got my Dutch oven in there. So I'm gonna flour this again. You can't have too much flour. And then this is some parchment paper that I've used a gajillion times. Flip it over. Look at that, wow. Oh yeah, so this is a little fancy bamboo thing that my friend Ilona gave me. Thanks, Ilona. You see that I didn't use a towel in this one. You don't need to, I guess, and it leaves this fun little pattern. Safety razor. Here, you can let your creative energy shine. Just freestyle it like I do. That's what everybody needs to do.
Yeah. So because Eli did that,
We're gonna come back in 20 minutes. You're back.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Okay. We can do a impromptu hand washing. Show us how it's done.
okay, you gotta get your thumbs in there. Gotta get your little fingies as well.
In where?
You're just between all your fingies, yeah.
Okay, fingies between.
And then you gotta do your palms. You gotta do the backs of your hands as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get your wrists.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you gotta rinse it off.
Is this like surgery edition?
Well, this is what what's his name? Probably Gordon Ramsay.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mom. Aw. So at this point in your baking journey, the bread was baking for 20 minutes with the lid on, and now it's been about 10 or 15 minutes with the lid off, and you're just going to want to keep checking to see what the color's doing. So right now you can see how much it's risen, and you just stop whenever you're happy with the color. So like, I'm gonna go a little darker. So I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so that's how you bake sourdough bread, Sal A style. So you don't have to pay me $5 or $6 or $7 for a loaf anymore like a sucker. If you want me to stop yapping so much in the video, leave a link or a comment rather below and tell me to shut up and do it primitive technology style. I hope you enjoyed my video. Like, subscribe, and I'll catch you soon.